Hello everyone. I'm going to share my story with anxiety, and I'm going to start right at the beginning. So there's a nature-nurture debate about anxiety and many other conditions, and I think I had a bit of both. I'm sure I inherited some genes at conception if I look at our family history, and I guess I may have listened to parental screaming while I was in the womb. And the fact is that when I was 6 months old, my mother wrote in her diary, little Inge is so easily startled. And that's all she said, I think. And that's quite significant for a 6-month-old. So I was a jumpy baby. And from the outside, our life was perfect. I had 3 siblings. There was 7 years between me and the oldest one. I was the youngest, and we lived in a farmhouse on a huge plot, and my mother loved it, having chickens and bunnies and whatever. And my father was trying to plant grapes, even though he was a chartered accountant. And it looked idyllic. But I do remember one particular image where I was crouching at my oldest sister's feet, and she was probably doing her homework. And I had run to her room because of the screaming. And the thing is that my parents didn't really fight physically, at least as I can tell. But it was so unpredictable when one of them would taunt the other one, and off they went. And they actually both loved children very much, and they were both very intelligent people. And when I was about 7, we moved into the city. This is all happening in South Africa. We had lived an hour outside of the school, and then we moved into the city. And when I was about 11, 12, we bought a house really close to the school. And it was good in many ways. We could just walk to school, and we were a family that was very well known because all the kids were smart, and Dad did the books for the school. This was a school that went from grade 1 to 12, so everybody knew everybody. We were musical, we were sporty, we were pretty all-rounded. In those elementary years, I actually presented as an outgoing, even bossy child at times, definitely a leader. I was always voted class captain. I also developed I had a very soft heart for outsiders and disabled children. I had a disabled friend across the road. And whenever somebody new came into the classroom, it was like, Mimi, sit next to me. And so I think, though, that the origin of this kind of empathy wasn't all that positive. I think I was trying to just keep everybody happy around me, make sure everybody was okay. And I was, as I said, very much the outgoing type. But if I look at myself now, my personality, I would say I'm a noisy introvert. I need a lot of rest. And I can talk for hours, and then I get exhausted and fall apart. So that's how I presented as a child. And then when I was 14, I had my first panic attack, and I learned how to control them pretty well. I didn't tell anybody about it. It was just suddenly in a certain situation, for example, where I had to sit still in church, I would have an intense fear and feeling like I have to run outside. And I learned how to relax myself, how to concentrate on something else. And even to this day, I have to practice relaxation when I go to the dentist or when I'm in an airplane, because it's just that feeling of an airplane, perhaps panic, I can't get out. And yeah, so that was that. And I also developed a little bit of OCD. I noticed when I was walking on the sidewalk, I used to step on leaves. And I know usually people avoid cracks, but I did the opposite. I could force myself not to do it, but I kind of sometimes tended to want to step on leaves. I sometimes still do that. And what else? High school, I was still okay. I got increasingly less energy. It was getting too much that I was a youth leader, like a children's youth leader in church. It was just too much for me. I stopped taking piano lessons around grade 11. Grade 12, I dropped my extra course because I didn't absolutely have to take it. So I dropped the history because I was terrible at it. And I was very nervous in the final exams because the final exams in 12th grade are one chance. There's only one chance. If you flunk it, you have to do the year again, which would have been terrible because my whole self-esteem was based on achievement. So the anxiety was pretty latent at that point, but definitely the energy was starting to wane. University then, first year university wasn't fun. I just missed my small school class, the people I used to know for 12 years. University was close by from home, but still at least my church group stayed the same, the youth group at church. I found university vast and anonymous. I wanted to do math, but had to do it as a BA subject because I took all other BA courses. So I did 2 years of the BA degree and then realized that the African language I was learning could not be done in third year unless you learned another African language for comparative reasons. And I knew that I did not have the energy for that. And so I didn't know what to do. So I switched to a 4-year program and went into third year Bachelor of Primary Education. I had to take another extra course during that year, but I managed, and this would have made me a teacher for elementary school. But looking back, teaching was really not for me. Even now, I get exhausted from talking. And I had to do some practical weeks, obviously, in those times, and it was exhausting. And I made it through the third year, and during the fourth year, I had my complete breakdown. It was just after my sister's wedding. I had completely exhausted myself. I had put together a whole orchestra for her wedding. And shortly after, I went just off my rocker. I had also moved out together with 2 friends, and that was also traumatic. I wasn't used to cooking for myself. It was all coming together. I was always in love with guys that were not interested in me, and that also added to the breakdown. And I went psychotic completely. And luckily, my pastor's wife took care of the situation and helped my mother to get me into a clinic. And I was admitted involuntarily because I was thinking I was fine. Why should I sign those documents anyway? And I just have to backtrack a little bit. At the age of 19, which was in my second year where I was still doing the BA, I did develop depression. I started waking up early, which is quite a common symptom. So I would wake up at 3, 4 in the morning and not be able to sleep again. But I kind of mentioned it to my parents. I think my mother was sent to some family doctor, and I don't even know if I was given medication. I was just told to let things just come to you. Don't be afraid to embrace whatever comes to you. And so the depression was there around the age of 19. And then when I was 21, I had the the psychotic breakdown. And I remember the psychiatrist in the clinic. I was there only for 10 days. It was very expensive. It was private. And the doctor asked me, "Do you know what manic depression is?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You have it." And I was put on lithium. I was doing very well after 10 days. I was sent home and I was told in 6 weeks I'll be a lot better. And I saw the psychiatrist for the next 5 years or so. Very nice man. And only put on lithium. And then I kind of did some odd jobs. I was trying to waitress in a family restaurant from relatives, and did that at lunchtime, and actually met my future husband there, but didn't know it and wasn't interested. But I also was very anxious and nervous, and so people could tell that I was constantly out of breath when I was serving, and I had to bend forwards to get breath, and people noticed. So it was too early probably, and the rest of the year is a blur. I don't know what I did. And then the following February, when university starts in South Africa, I went back, and luckily the rule had gone. I didn't need another African language to complete my first degree. So I went back into my BA. I had done 2 years, then I had done the other 2 years at the primary facility. And I went back and did my third year BA just on lithium. And actually in the middle of the year they took me off lithium and they said, "Oh, you're doing so well." And I was never the same again. I wasn't really all that well. I don't know why they really did that, but I remember at the end of the year finishing my math exam, and I feel so sorry for that girl behind me, because at some point I had this nervous cough and nervous throat clearing, and I was in the exam and she kept saying shh, shh, and maybe she failed because of me, I don't know. And excuse me. And so anyway, that was my third year. I made it. I got my BA degree. That was a huge success for me. But I didn't know what to do with it. I really didn't want to do the high school teaching degree, which both my sisters actually had done. So I went to Germany, because one of my sisters was in Germany, and I lived with her for 5 months, not knowing what to do with my life. And my brother-in-law just mentioned, "You know what, you should go to that other university, which is an hour away in Cape Town. You should do your high school teaching diploma. You would fit in there like a fish in water." And something clicked, because it was something I could do, even though I had no real desire to be a teacher at all. But I did it. I moved away from home, moved into a home with a huge house with 10 other students, and did relatively well. I did it, I made it, but I did not listen to my body. I did not take care of the rest I needed. And I developed a really bad tic, which was like this, like a neck movement. And that was like halfway through the year. And so I also had to do practical placements at schools. And when I was nervous, I was also walking very irregularly, which I still do, I have to say. When I'm nervous, I have to really practice relaxation while I'm walking sometimes. And obviously the students saw that. That was embarrassing. And I was very surprised. Nobody said anything from the university, and they gave me my high school teaching certificate, which was a big success again. But I didn't know what to do with my life. I did some tutoring at old school. And then 2 months later, lo and behold, Prince Charming arrived, and I met my future husband, which was the same guy that I had met in the restaurant a couple of years earlier. And he was funny, he was sweet, he accepted me the way I was with my tic, just a heads up, the tick lasted, let me think, I was about 24 when it happened. 24, about I think 12 years, and it went away completely when I had my little kids. It's an interesting fact. So he wasn't the typical guy I would have fallen in love with, but he was the right guy for me, I guess. And so 11 months later we were married, and I think it was a bit of a codependent relationship. I knew he saved me. I had no idea. I felt I couldn't work full time. I couldn't support myself. I had moved back home. He saved me, and I think I saved him a little bit because he had some real rejection issues with his father in his childhood, and he knew if he married me with this nervous condition, I would be so grateful. I would love him forever. And our marriage did last 22 years, which I find amazing. So we got married, and my mom passed away. I had looked after her a little bit. She had had 12 years of cancer. My father had passed away. Maybe I should have mentioned these things. My dad passed away when I was 22, and my mom when I was 25, I think. But I handled those things quite well, especially my mom, both my dad and my mom. And so we inherited money, and we bought a condo. We sold it 3 years later, and 4 years later moved to Canada. And here I did a little course, 1-year course at college in bookkeeping, and that's something that I really enjoyed, but it was very stressful actually. My anxiety was still there because I was married. He had expectations. I was cooking. I was there for him physically. We had no car in the beginning. I had to walk after the college to the store to buy food. It wasn't easy, but I made it. And the year then I didn't work after that, which is, again, I felt like I can't. So our 2 daughters were born within 15 months of each other. And luckily, his mom always came almost every year to help us for 3 months. And I think that saved my life. But also, I loved being a mother. It was actually the dream of my life. And if I had told anybody that in grade 12, they would have said, "Are you nuts? You're the smartest, one of the smartest in the class. You want to be just a mother?" Well, yeah. And those early years for them, those early years with them, say until they were like 10, 11, 12, those were the happiest days of my life. For the first time, I could say, I'm a full-time mom, and there were many of us around. Nobody knew that I had never worked full-time. And it was just so much fun dressing them and feeding them and taking them to the park, and later on helping a little bit in their school and taking them to swimming lessons and trying all kinds of sports with them, and they were both quite shy and had problems with socializing, and I tried to arrange play dates and give them the best birthday parties you can imagine. And the anxiety but was still there. The lithium, I still took lithium. I had added in my year at the second university where I did the teaching degree, I added clonazepam, which is a calming medication, medication. Tranquilizer basically, and should not really be taken, but I'm still taking it after 30 years. It's one of my goals to get off, but that's my keto journey with reducing my medication is a different video. So I was taking those 2 medications, but I remember even though there was this joy in those years, I constantly tried new medications, and I think my husband could be a little bit demanding in the attention he needed. Anyway, at some point, actually no, I was on ludium as well, an antidepressant that was added Actually, that was added when the lithium disruption didn't work. When I went back to university to finish my BA and they took me off the lithium and it didn't work, within months they put me back on lithium, and then they pretty soon added the ludiumol as an antidepressant to just calm me. So at that point I wasn't yet taking the clonazepam, so that was then added. So in Canada I was on 3 medications: lithium, clonazepam, and ludiumol. Ludiumol was discontinued, and that was part of my problem. It was working so well for me, and I had to try things, and I ended up on Remeron, which I'm still taking. And at some point we added Seroquel, and I don't remember exactly why. I had a few hypomanic phases. One was when I tried to fall pregnant without medication, which I then did not do. I was pregnant while on lithium and ludiumol and clonazepam, I believe, and had 2 healthy children. But I did see a special place in Toronto which doesn't exist anymore. It's called Mother Risk, and they were kind of encouraging me to stay on the lithium. The evidence wasn't that great, that it would cause a huge increase in risk for neural tube defect, for example, which they didn't get. So anyway, at some point the Seroquel was added, and today I am on these 4 medications. I am still on Seroquel, still on lithium, still on Remeron, and still on clonazepam. So then we had health issues with our children. As they became teenagers, they developed depression. One developed some form of psychosis, hallucinations. They were both hospitalized for some time. And then in those years, our marriage fell apart. My husband left. And both girls, they were about 14, 15, decided to live with him. And the older one disappeared in the middle of the night at the age of 17. That was pretty traumatic for us. And we found out later on that she or he, whatever he is now, let me call him them, just to be in the middle. So we found out that the kids are in contact with each other, which is fantastic, but I'm so used to it. He never, ever contacted his father again, which is very strange. He's never spoken to me again, so this has been 9 years or so now. And the second one, she did very well. Both of them left in grade 12. They didn't finish school, and I thought, oh my God. But the younger one went ahead and worked 5 years as a swimming instructor, and then did a course as at a college here, and but is struggling now with depression and is not at work. So enough about them. My condition was remarkably stable in that breakup time. I took the money I got from the divorce and I bought a condo, and I started working part-time, like 3, 4, 5 different jobs. Some worked out, some didn't. I shared my condo always with 2 other people because I had 3 bedrooms, and I was still supported to some extent. And so I did quite well financially. I didn't land on the street. I don't want to go too much into the breakup. I know that I wasn't the innocent partner all along. In our case, it took 2 to tango. He should have probably been stronger and taken me to see a therapist, a marriage therapist. And I could, because out of anxiety or exhaustion, sometimes flare up and just lose it, and maybe be irritable with the children, but maybe yell at him or shout at him. So anyway, I was stable. I was really stable. But while we were married, I had a few hypomanic phases, maybe 2 or 3. But I was always treated at home, and I had a very good psychiatrist. I've had a very good psychiatrist in Toronto. And then what happened? Yeah, I'm now in my second relationship since about 8 years, and people would say I'm really stable. I started my first full-time job when I was 56, and I am proud of that. I'm working from home by now. We switched, and I'm a bookkeeper. And because our life is so quiet, I think that really helps me be stable. Like my husband is I would say he's reclusive almost, if that's the right word. He's very quiet and private and doesn't even, calls his friends like once a blue moon, doesn't go outside in the winter because he's from Indian descent and can't handle the cold. But we just had 2 good weeks in Cuba. I have to mention that. it's April here now, so it was in February. That was good. We missed the big snow dump. And I sleep, yeah, you'll be surprised, 10 hours a night. So with that together, that helps me be stable, I'm sure. I find my life pretty boring at times, I have to say. And I also just have a few friends that I see very seldom. My ex-colleague I see on a monthly basis. We go for breakfast. So that's where I'm at now. People would say, you're so stable. That's my journey with anxiety. I have not shaken it off. I've been worse than I've been now, I think. I will make a video about my keto journey. I've been on ketogenic diet for over a year, on and off, and I've had amazing results with reducing medication. Amazing. So that'll be probably my next video. Goodbye.